one of the things that really irritates me now that you bring it up is that there's a lot of talk about diversity, and whether it be more women and all this other stuff in comic books, and they sort of just chalk it up to, okay, we're going to make Thor female, right?
Right,
Or
right,
we're going to do this, and it's like, yeah, but you're not creating something fresh and new.
right. It's black, gay, or female. Those are the tropes. Like, oh, change the character, make it black. Oh, change the character, make it gay. Change the character, make it transgender. Change the character, make it lesbian. Change the character, make it female.
Right. Instead of
It's
actually
like,
really getting into doing the work of paying a creator to
right,
come
fan
up
the
with
creator,
something.
and that's all good, but it's done superficially. It's
Yeah,
not on a
exactly.
deeper level. It's
Exactly.
not.
That's what I was trying to get to. It's a superficial level.
It's a superficial level,
Yeah.
and you want to include everyone. You want those creators to create, and you want to have transgender writers writing transgender characters. You want female characters writing female characters. You want black characters writing black characters, and that's fine. But they're doing it on a surface level where it's just about. It's all about marketing. It's all about demographics, and
List they
that's the
go.
reason why they're doing it.
Okay, hold on. Yep, black. Yep, gay. Yep. And so
Right.
on.
It's not about investing in these people as people
Yeah.
because of who they are and their identity. It's
Right.
about creating a product and marketing a product to a certain demographic and making money.
Right.
And
Well,
that's where it fails.
exactly. And it's like, for example, Peter Parker. I think the reason he connected with a lot of people back in the days, he was a poor guy.
Right.
Always got messed over, and there was a certain level of where you can kind of understand where he's coming from. And I think you could take any list of any group and create something that is very unique to their experience, because it's the experience, that story, and then go from there and create something that's wonderful, as opposed to, okay, we'll just mention they're this, and then it never really centers around that. It's just the same old thing,
Right.
and that's that surface paying lip service, and it's a
It's lip
corporate way of
service.
doing it.
Yeah. It's pandering too.
Yeah,
I mean, just like when I created the autistic character for Archie, not anybody, but I created a Hispanic character, autistic character for their books. They had this dispute; they didn't want to put it in print, so it was internet only. And as the character got popular and started traveling, the owner started traveling. She go to Ireland, go to India, go to the Philippines. She's traveling with this character. She starts beginning to pander. Well, the character is half Irish and half Filipino because she went to the Ireland, she went to the Philippines, and she's like, oh, well, we'll change the race of this character for the future issues. And as a writer, I was like, no, this is a Hispanic character,
yeah,
and this is the character is famous for being a symbol of autism and empowerment of
right,
autism, and
right.
bringing awareness of autism. Has nothing to do about pandering. So I mean, I basically talked myself out of the job. I was basically fired because it wasn't. She was like, "This is my character, and I could do whatever I want." I said, "Well, technically, I wrote and created the character, so it's mine.
Wow.
It's a work for hire, and yes, technically, you do own it. You do own the character, and we're still friends. You can disagree and still be friends."
Yeah,
Uh, I was just like, "But you're pandering,
yeah,
and your pandering is not going to make the character more popular. The character's already popular."
yeah. And what's
So then they got
interesting though,
another writer and another artist, and
but the central issue to me would be, yes, he's Hispanic, well,
yeah, it was a female character, but yeah,
or
good, yeah,
she's
yeah,
Hispanic.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah. It's okay.
um, but
The
the
character
central
is called
issue is the
Scarlet. Yeah,
autism,
yeah,
because the autism is a disability we share across the world. You can be Irish and be autistic, and I think that is the central. I would think would be the disability that
right,
gets people to think about it. I mean,
right.
not to diminish the her being Hispanic, but that might actually educate someone else over in India. Go, oh wow,
This is
it's
like this other
interesting,
culture, right?
different
This is
culture.
right. Like Archie's white, right? He's like probably Irish, right? And because of his red hair, people don't say, "Oh, Archie's in Africa, so let's make him black." for this issue. I mean, they did used to do that. Like they made Lois Lane black for an issue. They did do that.
Oh,
And
I
it's just
remember that. I remember. I never read it, but I remember that. Yeah, I
but
remember
it's
that.
not cool. They just made a black Archie, which was Chuck.
Right,
It's
right,
like,
right. Yeah, no, I remember that. No,
you
that's
know,
it's totally uncool. The way I
yeah,
see,
it's not the right thing to do. I
no,
mean, to each his own, you
because
know,
it's almost like saying
but
this character can still retain being the exact same way if we
right,
just put just spray paint them, a
right,
different color.
exactly. That's
It's
what
kind
they're
of like
doing.
blackface,
Right. It's like blackface, no different than blackface.
you know.
And I think that a lot of people who run these corporations still have that blackface mentality, since you mentioned blackface,
Right.
which was the first American pop culture. People forget that,
Yeah.
you know, like Birth of a Nation and all that stuff.
Hmm. And they
We're
took,
still very much still caught up into that.
yeah, and that idea that elsewhere, I'll give you an example. I took film in university. And the reason I chose comics was because I figured I'd have more control. But
Right.
I still remember sitting in my film class, Business of Film 101. I was studying in Canada, in Toronto, when one of the film studio heads comes in. It wasn't a head, but a representative. And some of the young women who were Caribbean asked them very, very bluntly said, why aren't there more black faces as leads in movies?
Right.
He didn't even bat an eye. And he said, because black faces don't sell movies. This
And
was
that
a
was still
year
a very
before Will
right.
Smith, his whole Independence Day kicked
Right.
off. And it was that made me think, if he's thinking that, I'm in Canada, right? If he's thinking that, I'm walking in through that front door and I got to try to pitch him something,
Right.
automatically, just from my skin tone, it
Right.
automatically diminishes whatever I'm going to say,
Right.
right? So I figured I'd go into comics, and people really don't understand. I mean, Will Smith had to come out and say, "Look, if I can sell out in stadiums around the world,
Right.
why do you think they're not going to go watch me in a movie?"
Right. Exactly.
It is, I mean, like
He was
Black
like the
Amer-
Justin Bieber of rap.
right? I mean, he was, yeah. Yeah, that's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh. Uh,
I Will Smith.
I'm just
But
kidding. But I mean,
he wasn't like a real hardcore rap artist. He was like
right.
the pop feel good rap artist.
Exactly.
Like
He wasn't Ice-T or Public Enemy or
no, he
anything.
wasn't. I mean, hey man, the guy is very successful. I wish I had his money. It's like
Absolutely.
no,
But
Will Smith, he's great.
but it's still that mentality.
But he was like the safe black guy. He wasn't Eddie Murphy. He was the safe black guy.
He
He's not
was
gonna say you. He's gonna be like, hey, how's it going?
and he actually said that. He said that the reason for his success is because he actually was seen as safe.
Right.
And what's interesting though, for me, whether however you feel about Black Panther or not, but remembering way back when that guy walking in, and I know that Disney and the corporations walked away with a boatload of money, it still made me laugh that it did so well around the world.
Oh yeah.
It
I think
was,
I think that the people were just hungry for it, and it was at the right time.
yeah,
But as a movie cinematic, I hope the second one's better. I mean,
their budget
I
was
made a joke about that. I said this is basically the Lion King, and then I walk into a theater,
right,
and then somebody drew on a chalkboard
right,
Simba, but as Black Panther.
right,
And then somebody saw that. It was hand drawn, like one of the workers, employees
right,
did it. And then before you know it, I saw the exact same image on a t shirt, like in a store.
right.
So
But
someone from Marvel obviously went to the Alamo Theater
right, but
and
ultimately,
saw that and turned it into a shirt because that's what it was. It really was.
but ultimately, Lion King is Hamlet.
Right. Well, actually,
So,
no. It's the white Kimba, the white lion in
well,
Japan.
yes, it is, but the overall storyline
But it's
was
Hamlet,
Hamlet,
yeah, of course, yeah,
and
of
that's
course.
what they were playing with the whole idea of Hamlet,
Right.
which just shows you again, no trying to be completely original. And there were some things that I thought that were
Yeah.
very good from an African American perspective was tackling Killmonger and Black Panther, T'Challa, because there is a very deep division that's slowly being mended between those on the African continent and African Americans. There's a deep
Oh,
resentment.
huge.
There's a deep resentment. So from my perspective, it was just nice on a very surface level that they even touched on that, because
Right.
Killmonger really represents a lot of the anger, the deep down inside and resentment that we have towards the African continent. Um,
Sure. I mean, they were sold, and I mean, some were stolen. A lot were stolen, but some
mhm,
were sold.
yeah,
And from rival tribes, and
yeah. So
it, and
from
they don't
that,
even understand. Some people know that, but it's like your original language is gone.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
original
feel for the
names,
black culture because and the United States is. I know they have every manifest, every ship record,
right,
every because in Colombia, where my grandfather lived, he has that. He had that. He donated it before he died last year. He had the ship
wow,
manifest from our ancestors because we were related to we were our my Colombian side of my family were slaves of Philip Livingston, who was a New Yorker
right,
who adopted Josephine Beekman, who was my great 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 grandmother.
right.
His black children opened the first Christian church in San Andres Island, and he had the manifest of every person on that island. It's just like their system was just as thorough as the numbers on the Jews that were in concentration camps.
Oh
They
well, yeah,
knew where they where they Americans should be able to trace their heritage, but these books are hidden in
and they're
these secret
decaying.
libraries
They're
because
decaying. Right now,
right,
they're saying that they're trying to really fight hard to save a lot of these records, but
right,
ultimately, you have to understand. It's like inventory,
right,
because ultimately it was inventory,
right. It was
and it
a
was just
cargo, yeah,
cargo. It was inventory,
yeah,
and there's also deep resentment too, because Africans aren't taught what
right,
happened to us, so
right.
there's that disconnect. And I thought that in that small way, a very small way, it touched on a very painful thing that I often would see between Africans and African Americans, which I'm slowly seeing it mend, which is a
Right,
beautiful thing, particularly with Ghana and the return back to the passage back
right.
to Africa. But you're right, we should be able to find all that.
They have them. Those records exist. They're just not showing them. They
Yeah.
want to disempower Black Americans. I mean, we're totally off topic with punchline, but it's like,
Oh yeah, no, no
but you're
problem.
right.
This is
We're going all over the map. But you're right. They're
this is our
disempowering
jam
Black
session.
people. Black people have the right to know where they came from. They can easily find out where they came from based on the last name because a lot of Black people still today in America have either a Dutch last name or an Irish last name, or and those last names come from their slave masters from way back when. Just like Cassius Clay, when he became Muhammad Ali, they interviewed a white guy named Cassius Clay who said that he owned his ancestors, and
Yeah,
they know
yeah.
they know.
And the tricky part is though is that if those records actually have the African names, but I
Right.
don't think they were given that respect because
Possibly, possibly not. But in
yeah,
Colombia, they have all those manifests and those things.
that's
You
very
can trace
interesting.
your family back all the way from the day the ships landed. You know,
That's interesting.
and
The
they may not have their names. They have the region where they're from, what part of
Interesting.
Africa they came from.
Interesting.
A lot of Africans were stolen from Rwanda. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of it's like a lot. They can they have those records exist.
Yeah.
You know, just
And
like you have in Washington D.C. There's a basement full of like paintings of Hitler and Saddam Hussein and all these dictators that we
well,
overthrew and their
that goes
records and
into a whole other different thing. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we have this stuff. We're collectors. There's like at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark with they're going with
Right.
that big giant room of that they collect and hoard. They're
Right.
hoarders.
Well, what's
And what do
interesting.
we do when we invade a country? We steal their art. We steal their culture. You know,
Well,
we
that's that.
take
That goes back to antiquity.
right
You go to
exactly.
Rome, you go to the Pantheon, and you see the Egyptian pillars that hold up the Pantheon, and it's such an old concept of just stealing from the people that you've conquered,
Right,
and it's a sad and unfortunate thing.
right.
What's interesting, going back to where you were talking about Jim Crow and collecting, that's another thing that's a big issue. The collecting of skulls and all sorts of stuff, whether it's Geronimo or Nat Turner or many of the
Yeah,
other craziness
the
that
skull
we
and
have.
bones had the skull of Geronimo.
Yeah,
That's twisted.
very very twisted. Well, this is our jam session, so we get to So just spitball.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
just shoot.
I like it. I like it.
So
Yeah, we go beyond comics.
just beyond comics. Well, there's a connection in the sense that I believe that a culture, how it thinks and how it acts, affects everything. It can't be separated. I mean, it can
Mhm.
be separated and analyzed separately, but there's a over underlying philosophy, and it comes back to exploitation. That's what we've had
Yes,
for
that's
easily
the
the past.
underlying theme of this episode:
Yeah,
exploitation.
exploitation, exploitation. And right now, it's very easy to see people be exploited physically and go, that's
Right,
exploitation. But
right,
from what we've been talking about, there's a different form of exploitation people might not really get to see all that out often, and it's very invisible to them, and that's intellectual exploitation.
right.
This is a very big difference. So,
Yes,
all right,
absolutely. You're right, man. We full circle.
full circle.
We did the whole history of the world and
Came back to comics.
came back to comics.
Came back to comic
Which
books.
I'll plug my very first Bronx Heroes book was called Runaway Slave, and it was about slavery in New York.
Right,
It was 4 issues, and then I put it in a collected edition.
right.
And because we don't learn as a school teacher, they don't teach about slavery in the North. Wall Street was the first commodity was slaves,
Right. Well,
as
that's the
well as
wall where they
other
would sell the
goods.
slaves.
Right. And the wall was to keep the Indians out. And
Yeah.
then under the Dutch, why we have so many black and Indian mixtures here, like Cherokee and black
Hmm.
and Blackfoot and black, and because the Dutch actually allowed slaves to retire. They had like almost like a sentence. So when they were done, they were allowed to
Yeah,
leave,
yeah. That
and
was
they gave them
actually,
property, but on Indian territory. So, and they thought that the blacks would be killed off by the Indians, but they didn't. They actually mixed.
well, they
You
had a
know,
similar religion.
right?
And the other thing too that's very interesting is that it wasn't until the late 1600s, after 1676 with the Bacon's Rebellion,
Hmm.
in which you have poor indentured servant whites, indentured servant blacks, enslaved blacks, all rebel against the governorship of Virginia.
Right,
Up until then, you had a limited amount of time that you had to serve. So, and if you were Christian, you could not be enslaved for the rest of your life until
right,
Elizabeth Key. Elizabeth
right,
Key, they proved, we're going to change the laws. But a lot of the
right,
racial laws really grow out of Virginia. And people
right,
really don't really understand how deep and insidious the racial laws in Virginia were. They had
right,
to read them out in the courthouses and
hmm
churches once a month
right,
to remind people of these laws.
right.
And
And this is under the British law, right? This
this is
is
under
after the
British law.
Dutch.
But for a
Yeah,
period of time, you had about 7 years. They might squeeze 11 years out from you. And it was James Punch was the
right,
first black person that his sentence uh, to being enslaved was extended, and then it also then included his children, and
right,
that was in the late 1600s. And
right,
just the idea of a lot of these exploitive ideas then carry on to corporate America, you know,
right. And
and
they're still doing it. This new generation doesn't own anything. Everything's in the cloud, and the
right,
cloud is possession. Everything in the cloud is owned by the corporation.
right. So you make sure you download your stuff,
Right, right.
keep it on
But
a
they can
hard
use
drive.
your stuff,
Right,
and it's their intellectual property.
right. So
Your image, I just heard. I was watching a documentary, and they were talking about how data, people's personal information, is worth more than oil.
I
You
can see
know,
that.
and the stock market of the trading of people's identity, their information, your fingerprints, your eye print, all that data, what you do, what you eat, what you post, all that data
I can
is
see
being
that.
sold and traded to corporations so that you could buy it. So they can, and then the government gets a hold of it, and then you're basically owned. I mean, slavery was horrible, but they didn't have your eye scan, they didn't have your fingerprints,
Well, it's
and this
the
is a
whole
new
idea
form of
evolves.
slavery.
The whole idea evolves. The idea of being free,
Right.
and you think you're free, but you're not. So it's very, very, very intriguing, very interesting as to
Clearly
that.
not. Look at
No,
China. People are trying to escape this shutting down. And there was a video I just saw of this woman getting her neck broken because she was trying to escape the quarantine zone. The police pull her out, break her neck, and then put her dead body in a van.
Wow. Well, to add to this, they're the ones
Yeah.
who actually have a whole social, and it's our companies who are helping them. I'll add
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
idea of
Conversion.
social media or social points.
Yeah.
So they follow you, and if you throw something on the garbage, you miss. If you don't throw it in the garbage, you lose a point, and so on. So there's a lot of really, technology has a good side and it has a negative side,
Right.
and it comes back to
Yeah.
being independent, I guess.
But independence is important, right? Give me freedom or give me death. Or
But the
I'll give
thing
you death.
is we need to know what is freedom.
Right.
We need to know what freedom is. Because
Right.
sometimes I think
And this
people,
younger generation doesn't understand that. They just want to be in the cloud. They want to be in the web. They want to be part of
yeah,
it, and they don't know what it is to have something that's your own.
I think a lot of it too is the situation that you have dealing right now, the economic situation. You work
Right.
3, 4 jobs part time. You're having a tough time, so
Hmm.
you just make ends meet. You survive.
Right.
You might not
Praying
even,
for retirement, right?
and not even thinking of retirement. I don't think
Yeah.
most of them think they'll retire. So there's
Right.
that deep, which needs to be corrected
Right.
in so many ways, and there are many of us who also our generation who probably don't care that everything's the way it is because they think it's the future time too. So
Right.
um, there's plenty to go around. I
Yeah, we're losing our humanity. Yeah. True.
think
I always say anyone over 60 shouldn't use social media because
well,
or maybe over 55 because it's just like they go really extra. Like I had a friend that I grew up with. I posted this thing about this principal who's very successful. He does PB Soldier comics. Great guy, cool dude. We're friends.
mhm,
I was like, this is good news. He's getting recognition. Let's put it out there. And then this crazy guy that I grew up with starts berating the article. I don't know if you read the article, but he's berating this person, this image that he sees. Like, well, why isn't it you? Why they don't give credit to teachers? I was like, dude, what's wrong with you? Calm down. It's like I have to call him and say, hey, stop arguing with people or stop trying to start fights with people you don't know. You
right,
know?
right,
It's like, why? And he's like, well, I'm just trying to defend you. Well, defend me against what? I posted the article and I'm praising him for being uh, an ally, or like like we're
yeah, an
men at
example,
arms, we're creators at arms, and we're doing the right thing, and we're like building up our community with our comics. It's not just about making a buck. It's not.
right.
That's the difference between independence. We're working with our community. We're building our community. We're inspiring younger people, and that's a good thing. So why are you this person or trying to this
Right.
person?
I think a lot of the times too is that we're also tend to be there's a gang mentality.
Right?
I think that's sort of
Yeah.
it, and it doesn't matter how old you are either.
No.
There's and social
Come
media has a
on.
certain
Gangs have
way.
been around forever.
Yeah, and it's this social media thing. You want to come in and you want to fight, but it's like, are we talking about ideas or are we just trying to have just complain?
Right.
So
I don't know. I just think going back to this whole corporate thing of DC and picking fights or attacking independent people, it's because they're not creative. They have a wealth of creative artists, but a lot of these artists are lost in the illusion of, hey, I'm going to work for this company. This is like the goal. It's just like we were. But the difference is that you don't see a lot of these artists as creators or writers, and the writers that they're hiring are more like these famous novelists or screenwriters. They're not of the same cut from the same cloth as the kids that grew up reading comics and being fans. You don't see that they're really fans. They're just and that yeah. I don't know. That's what I see.
I think that's why you're not seeing more kids into it.
Right.
Because I can tell you one thing, like my children, my son is 12 or he's turning 12 this year. And I can tell you that if it's not a video game, it doesn't exist.
Right.
Once it's a
Exactly.
game, man, he'll read everything
Yeah.
to do
Or
with
like a
that.
YA novel. The graphic novels and the mangas are those are killing comic
Oh,
books. The comic industry.
oh,
Superheroes are dying.
my son loves Mario Brothers, the
Yeah.
manga. He loves Splatoon,
Is
all
he
that
like
stuff.
Roblox? Is he a Roblox or a
Oh,
Fortnite
loves
guy?
Roblox, Minecraft, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's my
So
son too. Yeah.
there has been a sort of a step that has been missed to get new fans, to get them excited. Sure,
Right.
chase after you can chase after us, but we're getting older
Right.
instead of the younger people. So by getting all these, novelists, and mind you, I don't know, considering what we've been talking about, if they're
Right.
actually the ones writing it,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Exactly. It's ghost artists, ghost writers.
They're like, okay, I'll license my name out to you, like a Trump building, right?
Right. Exactly. Like a Trump building. Yeah. It
So,
really is something else. And it's weird. It's a weird time. You know.
yeah.
I
Well,
mean, honestly, I would never want to take credit for something I never produced.
exactly. That's
I would
just
never want my name on something that wasn't mine. You know.
exactly.
I mean, Alan Moore went through the same thing with when they were doing League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. They Hollywood Warner Brothers ripped off one guy's script that was very similar to it, but then they got Alan Moore into the loop of it by being sarcastic and saying, "Yeah, Alan Moore's stealing from you to this guy," and the guy sued Alan Moore. A
Oh
lot of people don't
my.
know this story. This is why Alan Moore didn't want movies being made of V for Vendetta or Watchmen or and want something to do with. That was the last straw that broke the camel's back
Yeah.
because Warner Brothers really fucked him over, DC fucked him over, and he was tired of it. You
Yeah.
know,
And a lot of people make him sound like a crazy
he's
old
not
man.
crazy. They always say you're crazy when you're too smart for everybody to comprehend.
Well, they said the same thing of Prince.
Yeah, exactly.
Prince, oh,
Well,
he's
Prince
changing
was
his name to a
intelligent.
symbol. The man had his name trademarked.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
he was a product. And then everybody
Exactly.
was saying, oh, look at him crazy walking around with the word slave on his face. But he
Hmm.
literally was saying exactly what we were just talking about. That whole idea of exploiting someone to the point that you're trademarked
Right.
as a person. It's
Because all
outrageous.
his early stuff, like Purple Rain and stuff, that was owned by the company, and then that's when he came up with a symbol. Everything was his under that symbol.
Yeah.
You know.
And he was a brilliant man. A
Yeah.
brilliant man. When he came he I've been a fan of his since I was 12. And
Oh, I was a big fan. Yeah.
I could tell you
Big
the
fan.
one thing that I admired him the most was how he dealt with intellectual property.
Oh yeah, he
You
was
know,
really. I remember people were calling him crazy. They were like the artist formerly known as Prince,
yeah.
and the symbol and all this. And I've seen all his movies in the theater, like Under the Cherry
hmm
Moon,
Graffiti
uh,
Bridge,
Graffiti
Purple
Bridge,
Rain.
Purple Rain. I didn't see in the theater because it was rated R and I was little, but I saw
Yeah.
all the ones after that.
Sign
All
of
his
the
movies,
Times.
yeah, Sign of the Times, all those films.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Yeah.
didn't know what to make of it at the time. I went because my sister was a fan.
Right.
And
Right.
then Graffiti Bridge, I took some girl on a date to see that one. I don't
Right.
even remember who the girl was, but it was a date.
Right. yeah.
But I didn't know what to make of it. But he is an innovator. You know, it's a shame that he passed the way he did. But I mean,
He left us so much too though.
yeah,
Yeah.
artist. It's tremendously painful to be an artist. Sometimes it hurts
Yeah.
to be creative. Like I told you last time, you know, being sued by Marvel and DC, and my entire life has been invested in comics. As a young man, that was up until 28. I was just like, I'm done with this. You know, it's like that was my goal.
And
And
what's
at
it
every turn, I got blocked because these corporations are preventing you from ownership and taking deliberately. They're pirates. They're pirates. They're just going around and saying, "This is mine. This is mine. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take that." And my solution is do the same thing. Be a mirror. Reflect. They want to steal from you, steal from them back. Like all those submissions that were rejected or stolen from, I'm taking those submissions, changing the names, altering the costumes, and making them my own stories. I wrote them. They're mine. You know?
that is layer your stories so much
Mhm.
and make them so good that it would be very hard for them to rip you off.
Right, right,
Because then
exactly.
eventually it's like, oh, you
Well, often imitated, never,
never matched.
they're exactly never matched,
Never matched. You know.
No, it's just like, what are you going to do?
So
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting. And well, it was fantastic talking to you, Ray. As always,
Likewise.
we should do this periodically. It'd be very
Yeah, we
interesting,
should. It's fun.
and catch up. I think the audience would really like that. It's unfortunate that most people who go into comic books go in very naive because they
Yeah.
love comic
Well,
books,
we
and there's
we
nothing
were
wrong with
too.
that.
Yeah, it's youth. Youth is naive.
Yeah, you know, and if we can kind of help somebody from this conversation understand better the pitfalls and what to keep out and not be too surprised if something happens like that, all the better. I think it would be fantastic because the point of being old heads is being passed down to young heads. Hey,
Right.
stay away
We
from
got
that
time to
ravine.
listen. Stay
Ray,
tuned out.
by the way, let us know what is your website for people to go to. I will provide it below in the link.
My newest book that's out is Bronx Heroes in Trumpland, and it's about the Bronx Heroes battling Donald Trump. It's I call it a bipartisan satire because I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm actually a Green Party member, the unpopular party, but I just made fun of everybody, including the Green Party. So it's a bipartisan satire. And I teamed up with Tom Siaka and Tom Ahern, and we designed this book and created it, featuring Astron, Star Soldier, and Black Power, the greatest hero. On www.bxhcc.com, which is Bronx Heroes, or you could pick it up on arsenalpulp.com, and you can pre-order it now because it comes out April 15th. You can pre-order it on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and Target.
Excellent. That sounds great. Sounds fantastic. Very topical. Off. And just remember, everyone, get your geek on.